I thought that day would mark the beginning of a new era. Saturday. Boston was still. I wore a simple cream dress, hair pinned up. On the dining table, imported Italian white wine, a menu curated by a private chef. 40 guests, high-end catering, a hired bartender, fresh lilies at the entryway, every detail precise. My parents, Margaret and John, were invited. So were my sister Rachel, her husband Tom, and their 4 daughters, Isla, Tessa, Maddie, and Chloe. It was the perfect housewarming. A blend of grace and achievement, 5 bedrooms, walnut floors, marble countertops, a garden I could see from the sunroom. This was my reward for years of 80-hour weeks, missed holidays, skipped vacations. I'd earned this. 6:52 p.m. I'd just finished a garden tour when the doorbell rang. Rachel arrived late, flustered, mascara smudged. Her daughters spilled into the foyer like a tornado. Tom followed, clutching a gift bag, wearing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Sorry we're late," she said, without waiting for a reply. "Girls, remember what I said. No running." They ran anyway. I forced a smile and led them in. "Want a quick tour?" I asked. Rachel nodded. Tom stayed quiet. In the kitchen, she murmured, "This place is bigger than our entire first floor." In the master suite, "Your closet could fit our bunk beds." No reaction from me. I kept walking. On the second floor, she paused in the doorway of a room I hadn't decided on yet. Afternoon light spilled through the window. I'd imagined placing a reading chair there, maybe a small plant shelf. "This would be perfect for the girls' playroom," she said, cool and certain. I didn't respond. 7:26 p.m. Back in the dining room, I raised my glass. This house isn't a trophy, it's proof that every late night, every maybe later, every small dream deferred meant something. Thank you all for being here tonight. Applause followed, warm smiles, glasses clinking, everything as it should be. Then Rachel stood up, her chair scraped sharply against the floor. "Since we're making announcements," she began, wine glass in hand, "Tom and I have decided to sell our house." A murmur rippled across the room. She smiled, eyes locking with mine. "Because we're moving in with Claire." Silence. Then, applause. My mother's voice rang out, delighted. "Isn't that wonderful? The girls will have so much room to grow, and Claire won't have to rattle around here alone." My grip on the wine glass didn't falter, my expression didn't change. But inside, everything cracked. Upstairs, the chaos had begun. The girls were picking rooms. Margaret was already suggesting furniture adjustments. Rachel showed me a Pinterest board filled with bunk beds and pastel walls. I pushed back. Rachel's smile faded. "You've got 5 bedrooms," she snapped. "We don't have anywhere else to go." They were being foreclosed on, drowning in debt. But instead of calling me, she staged an ambush. I walked to my home office, opened a drawer, pulled out a leather folder, then returned to the room. "3 weeks ago," I said clearly, "I bought your mortgage from the bank." Dead silence. "I now hold the deed, and I'm offering you a rent-to-own agreement. You stay in your home. The girls don't have to move schools. You buy it back in 5 years." Rachel went pale. Tom looked like someone had lifted a weight from his chest. Margaret wasn't pleased. "Why can't they stay with you?" she asked, lips tight. "Because helping," I replied, "doesn't mean self-sacrifice." Later, Rachel approached. "Why would you do this after everything I said to you?" "Because you're my sister. But even love needs boundaries." Weeks later, they signed the papers. I kept my house. They kept their dignity. Now we meet once a month. Just sisters. No obligations. No guilt. That empty room with the window seat. It's the guest room now. Isla or Tessa sleep there when they visit. Because I'm still their aunt, but on my terms. And finally, that's enough. Rachel and I grew up in the same house, same kitchen, same unspoken rules from our mother. Family comes first. But we learned very different things. Rachel clung to aprons and approval. She knew how to peel apples without browning them, how to say thank you at the right time, how to endure. I didn't. I liked silence, books more than dolls, questions more than obedience. I made our mother nervous. Rachel made her proud. She was 4 years older. When I was still in 8th grade, Rachel had her first serious boyfriend. By the time I was applying for college, she was pregnant. She gave up her scholarship, got married, and by 30 had 4 daughters. Our family treated it like a natural sequence. I went to MIT on a full scholarship, started as an unpaid intern at a tech startup. Then came years of absurd hours, no vacations, no weekends, but I climbed. At 28, I was CTO. At 32, I took an offer from a bigger firm, double the pay. Every step, I walked alone. No loans, no family money, no tears over the phone. Meanwhile, Rachel lived 15 minutes from our parents. A 3-bedroom house, 1 husband, 4 kids, and a permanent smile I never quite trusted. I came home for the holidays, I brought gifts, I paid for dinner. I listened to stories about summer camps, orthodontist bills, tuition. Every time Mom would say, "Rachel's sacrificed so much, you should be understanding." But no one asked what I'd sacrificed. They saw the bag I carried, the car I drove, the condo I lived in. No one saw what I gave up to have those things. I used to think I didn't mind, that if I kept my distance, stayed quiet, stayed polite, the balance would hold. I didn't need to be understood. I just needed to be left alone. I was wrong. Because people who don't respect boundaries never see the harm in crossing them. And if I didn't draw the line, they'd call it sharing. If I didn't react, they'd call it understanding. If I didn't say no, they'd call me generous. I never promised they could move in, never offered, never hinted, but that didn't matter. In their eyes, if I had something, they had access. If I had space, they had a right to it. If I had more, they could take. Rachel used to change my diapers, helped me study for my 10th grade exams. I haven't forgotten. But there's a clear line between helping and owning, and she crossed it. I don't know exactly when it started, maybe when she asked for a few hundred to cover the utility bill, then a few thousand for Isla's school. I didn't refuse, but I remember the look in her eyes last year when she visited my short-term penthouse rental. Her smile didn't reach her face. I remember what Mom said when I showed her the keys to my new house. "Your sister could really use that spare room." I ignored it. I thought if I stayed silent, they'd understand. I thought if I didn't push back, they wouldn't push forward. But I forgot something vital. Silence isn't a boundary. It's an invitation for people who are already willing to step over the line. I woke at 6 a.m., not from nerves, but from anticipation. It was housewarming day, the house I bought with blood, time, and solitude. I walked through every room. The kitchen still gleamed from yesterday's deep clean. Flowers were placed exactly. White lilies in the foyer, deep red roses on the dining table, wildflowers in the sunroom. Everything was perfect. At 3 p.m., the catering team arrived. The bartender called to confirm the alcohol delivery. My mother, Margaret, showed up an hour early. "Thought you might need help," she said, scanning rooms that didn't need anything. I gave her the tour. When we reached the 4th bedroom, still unfurnished, she asked, "What are you going to do with all these rooms?" "Gym, office, guest room." She nodded slowly. "Your sister could really use this kind of space with the girls getting older." I changed the subject. By 5:15, guests started arriving. Colleagues from work, college friends, new neighbors, hugs, wine, congratulations. Rachel and Tom were late. They arrived at 6:50. Rachel looked rushed, hair barely tied, face worn thin. Tom handed me a gift bag with a cautious smile. The kids burst into the house like it was an amusement park. I suppressed the irritation. I smiled. Want a tour? Rachel nodded. I led them through. In the kitchen, this is bigger than our entire first floor. In the master suite, this closet could fit 2 bunk beds. I didn't respond. In the empty room, the one I hadn't decided on, Rachel lingered. Such beautiful afternoon light. Would make a great playroom. I said nothing. 7:26 p.m. I raised my glass. Thank you all for coming. This home isn't a trophy. It's evidence. That late nights, saying maybe next time and delayed dreams, sometimes led to something real. Applause, glasses clinking, everything was going according to plan. Then Rachel stood. Since everyone's making announcements, she said loudly, Tom and I are selling our house. Tom flinched. Guests paused. Rachel looked at me. A strange smile tugged at her lips. Because we're moving in with Claire. Silence. Then, applause. Isn't that wonderful? Margaret beamed. The girls will finally have space to grow. I froze, still holding my glass, motionless. But inside, something cracked. Upstairs, the invasion began. Isla claimed the room with the window seat. Maddie bounced on the guest bed. Rachel tugged me upstairs and showed me her phone, Pinterest boards, bunk beds, child-safe furniture, pastel curtains. How long have you been planning this? Few weeks, she said like it meant nothing. I repeated, I never agreed to this. You have 5 bedrooms. Like that explained everything. Tom stood silently, but his eyes were those of a man swept along by a storm he didn't steer. I turned to Mom. You knew? I thought it made sense. For whom? No answer. I went to my office, opened the drawer, black leather portfolio. She wanted a spectacle. I had the ending she wouldn't expect. I stepped out of my office holding the black leather portfolio. Downstairs the mood had shifted. The party still buzzed, but quieter now. Conversations faded when I passed. Eyes followed me, some curious, others avoiding. Rachel was on the couch, flanked by her daughters, soaking in attention like she hadn't just detonated a bomb. My mother sat proudly beside her. Tom stood near the fireplace, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. I walked to the center of the room, laid the portfolio flat on the glass coffee table, took a breath. Thank you all for being here tonight, I said. Apparently this has turned into more than a housewarming. A few uneasy chuckles. No one spoke. Rachel's smile faltered. Since we're sharing announcements, I continued, I have one too. I opened the portfolio. 3 weeks ago, I purchased the mortgage debt on Rachel and Tom's house. Silence. Then gasps. Rachel's eyes widened. Tom stiffened. The bank had already started foreclosure proceedings. You weren't 3 months behind, Rachel. You were 5. They were ready to repossess. How do you even know that? She snapped. Craig Wilson called me, said Tom had been asking around. I did my own research. Then I made a choice. I turned over the second document, an official notice of lien transfer. I now hold the note on your home. My mother's jaw dropped. Tom muttered something under his breath. Why would you? Rachel started, but I held up a hand. I wasn't planning to tell you tonight. I was going to take you to lunch this weekend. Explain everything. Offer a solution. I placed the final document on the table. A rent-to-own contract. You stay in your home. Pay what you can afford. After 5 years, you can buy it back. Fair terms, fair price. No eviction. No bankruptcy. No moving your children into someone else's house without permission. Rachel stared at the papers like they were written in fire. Tom picked them up, skimmed, nodded. "This is generous," he said quietly. "This is respectful," I corrected. "You get your dignity, I keep my boundaries." My mother stood, voice sharp. "Why didn't you just let them move in? You have the space." "Because help isn't the same as surrender. I'm not a spare room. I'm not a solution by default." Rachel looked at me, really looked. "You did all this, behind our backs." "Like you plan to move into my home behind mine?" I replied, calm. She blinked, said nothing. The room was silent again. Even the kids were quiet now, watching from the staircase. "You had options?" I said. "You just didn't like any that required a conversation." Tom let out a short breath that might have been a laugh. "She's right," he muttered. Rachel turned to him, angry, but she didn't deny it. She'd drawn up Pinterest boards, let her children believe the move was a sure thing, told extended family, all before saying a single word to me. She hadn't planned to ask. She planned to announce, and count on the weight of guilt to silence me. She didn't think I'd fight back. She forgot that I didn't climb this far by yielding. I gathered the documents, slid them back into the portfolio. "The offer stands. Take it or leave it. But this house, my house, is not part of the solution." My mother sat down slowly, like the air had gone out of her. Rachel didn't speak, but her hands trembled, and for once, that was enough. After I closed the portfolio, no one moved. The house was still, too still, the kind of stillness you only notice after a storm. I set the folder aside, walked toward the bar, poured myself half a glass of bourbon. Neat. No ice. Rachel watched me like a stranger. Tom still held the contract, reading the final clause again, lips pressed into a thin line. Margaret stood up. She looked 10 years older than she had an hour ago. "You've always been like this," she said, voice trembling. Cold. Calculating. I didn't look at her. I took a sip. "No," I said quietly. "You just never liked when I stopped agreeing." She stepped closer. "Family is about sacrifice, about stepping up when your sister needs you." "Is that what this is? Sacrifice?" I asked. This was ambush, dressed up in entitlement." Rachel flinched. Margaret didn't answer. The party had collapsed. Guests left in quiet pairs. Some said goodbye. Most didn't. Only one voice broke through it all. Isla, standing near the stair railing. "Mom, are we not moving in anymore?" The room froze. Rachel's eyes went glassy. Chloe tugged on her dress. "You said we could paint our names on the walls." Rachel opened her mouth, closed it. Tom stood. He didn't speak to her. He looked at me. "We'll sign the contract tomorrow." Rachel turned sharply. "You're just giving up?" He exhaled, slow, controlled. "You didn't give her a choice, Rachel. None of us did. We were wrong." She stared at him, betrayal behind her eyes. Then she turned to me. "You think this makes you better? Holding our home over us like a favor?" "I think this makes me honest," I said. "And for once, in this family, that matters more than playing nice." Her eyes narrowed. "This isn't over." I finished the bourbon in one slow pull, set the glass down. "No," I said. "It's just the first time I'm not letting it begin." Later, after they left, I sat in the dark of my own living room. Lights off, fireplace cold, a house that felt bigger than it had that morning. I wasn't proud. I wasn't sad. I wasn't anything I could name. Just empty, but not weak, not guilty. For once, just still. And in that stillness, I heard my own voice in my head, not theirs, not expectations, not obligation, just mine. The next morning, a courier delivered the signed contract. No note, no apology, just Rachel and Tom's signatures, inked clean, neat. I read every word again, even though I had written most of them. Every clause was a boundary, every paragraph a line they couldn't cross again. The mortgage was now mine, their debt, mine to hold, not to use. And that mattered. I filed the papers in my office, locked the drawer. Then I made coffee, sat at the kitchen island, and breathed. The silence felt different now, not fragile, not forced, just earned. That afternoon, Tom texted, "Thank you for the house and for the way you handled last night. I'm sorry it came to that." I replied with a single sentence, "Tell the girls the offer stands. They can visit any time." He didn't reply, but I saw the 3 dots blinking, then disappearing, then blinking again. Whatever he wanted to say never came through. Maybe that was enough. Rachel didn't speak to me for a week. Then one afternoon, she showed up on my front porch. No kids, no Tom, just her. She stood there holding nothing. No apology bouquet, no folders, no rehearsed speech. I opened the door. "I'm not here to argue," she said. "Good. I just wanted you to know, I see it now, what we did, how it looked. I didn't then." I didn't say anything. "It wasn't about space," she continued. "It was about feeling like you owed us because you got out, and I didn't. You chose a different path," I said. "And resented yours," she replied. That landed somewhere honest. She shifted her weight, looked down at her hands. "I'm not used to being the one asking, and I didn't know how to do it without turning it into a demand." "You didn't ask," I corrected. "You planned." She nodded, didn't defend it. "I'm sorry for that." I stepped aside. "You want to come in?" She hesitated, then walked past the threshold, for the first time as a guest, not as a squatter, not as a claimant, just a sister. We didn't talk much. We sat in the sunroom, the same one she once called perfect for a playroom. Now it was mine again. Bookcase, armchair, coffee table, no toys, no chaos. Rachel sipped tea, looked around. "It's beautiful." "It was never about the square footage," I said. She nodded. Number it was about what it meant. Later, she asked if the girls could come by next weekend, just for the afternoon. To swim, to visit, not to stay. I said yes, but I didn't offer more, and she didn't expect it. 2 weeks later, the girls came by. They ran straight to the pool, barefoot and shrieking, and for a moment the backyard felt like it belonged to someone else, someone louder, someone messier, but not unwelcome. Rachel stayed inside. She watched them from the kitchen window, quiet. "They talk about you like you live on another planet," she said. "I might," I replied. "They're orbiting Jupiter. I'm parked on the moon." She smiled. Not bitter, just tired. "Chloe asked if you were rich." "And?" "I told her you were something better, prepared." I didn't know what to do with that, so I poured more lemonade. Later, Isla found the guest room, the one with the wide window and the seat she had already claimed in her mind. She sat there reading like she belonged, and for a moment, I didn't mind. Rachel peeked in. "This one's always been the quiet one. Like you." I nodded. Didn't correct her. That evening after they left, I sat alone again. Same chair, same bourbon, same view of a quiet house. But something had shifted. Not in the furniture, not in the walls, in me. I thought about the version of me who once let boundaries blur until resentment bloomed, who said yes to keep the peace, who confused silence with love. That version didn't live here anymore. I hadn't burned the bridge. I had rebuilt it, with weight-bearing wood and signs that said stop when needed. My mother still called weekly. She didn't mention that night again, but her voice had changed. Less commanding, more cautious. like she understood now that love given freely holds more weight than love demanded. Tom sent flowers. No note. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Some debts don't require repayment, just acknowledgement. I started therapy. A quiet room, a stranger listening, no judgment, just space. We talked about guilt, about roles inherited, not chosen, about how caretaking becomes control when laced with expectation. You did something rare, the therapist said. You held a boundary, and you didn't lose yourself doing it. I almost cried. Almost. Months passed. The girls visited twice more, always with rules, always with a return time, and always respected. Rachel and I started having lunch, neutral ground, no lists, no guilt. We didn't fix decades in a few meetings, but we didn't repeat them either, and that was enough. On the 1-year mark of my housewarming party, I hosted again. Smaller, simpler, just family, just friends, no announcements, no ambush, just connection, on my terms. Rachel brought dessert. My mother brought her knitting. Tom brought himself. Quiet, present. The girls swam, ate too much sugar, fell asleep on my couch. I let them, because it was safe now. Because I could allow softness without being consumed by it. After everyone left, I stood in the backyard. The air was colder than last year, the stars brighter. I looked back at the house, lit warm from inside. Every room mine, every space earned. And for the first time, I didn't feel alone. I felt whole, not because they changed, but because I did.